Hey guys, welcome to another episode of El Jefe's Chop Shop. Today we're going to be working on Emily's Cuore. So this is Emily's 2001 Daihatsu Cuore, or Daihatsu Mira, depending where you're from. This is a L701. So this is affectionately named Wormbib for the number plate. It's also called Barry, because it's Blue Barry. So this is what we're going to be working on today. And for the next couple of weeks probably. So Emily bought this off a friend of mine when it had about 110,000 kilometers. It now has 125,000 kilometers, and my friend bought it when it had about 60,000 k's on it. So I've known this car for quite a few years now, and it is quite a little clean example. We've recently put BC coilovers in it and lowered it down, and these are Heroes Racing wheels. So we pulled those apart, polished them up quickly, and repainted them. So Emily's driven about 3 days on these coilovers, and then it ran out of registration, and then she bought the Lexus, so it's been sitting untouched since. So one of the main things we need to do in the front end is cut the tyre rods down. So since we've lowered it, it doesn't have enough adjustment on it, so we're going to have to cut the tyre rods. But that's going to be a later problem now because we're going to do an engine swap. So these little cars are great, but they don't have a lot of features. So as you can see, you've got the manual windows, and they're all very, very basic. So this is a manual, and that red button we've put in for a boot release, because the car originally you have to take the key out to open the boot, which is a huge pain in the bum. So as you can see, it's pretty standard. Got a different radio in it, and that's about it. So 124,371. So coming into the engine bay, we've got the little 3-cylinder 1 litre and the pod filter that we made for a laugh. So this makes a hell of a noise when it's under full load. And you can see the BC Racing coilover tops there. So this is coming out, and we're going to put in the 4-cylinder that we got from the wrecking yard, the K3. So we're going to do that swap over the next couple of weeks. So we're probably going to turbocharge this at the same time as the engine conversion. It just seems a bit easier rather than getting the conversion done and then turbocharging it. But I'm sure we'll get it running between the engine conversion and the turbo. So before we do anything today, I'm just going to have a look and see what is similar or what is the same as the K3 we just pulled out. So I noticed that the aircon lines are run in a very similar direction. The fuse box is pretty much the same thing. The bracket for the fuse box looks the same as what was on the YRV. I just took the coil pack cover off, and unfortunately the coils are different, so we can't use those on the K3. So it all looks reasonably similar. So you won't be able to see the engine mounts, but they do look the same. So hopefully this should be reasonably bolt in. But I did remember one thing that we've already done to this car: central locking. These cars didn't even come with central locking in 2001. But it has it now. So the battery we've got is flat. So I've just taken the battery out from the Cuore and taken the front bumper off. So now we're going to try and move the Cuore so we can actually work on it a bit easier. So I've just moved the Cuore on an angle and taken the bonnet off. Tim's just over there putting the bolts back into the bonnet so we don't lose anything. So now we'll get stuck into this, and I'll update you in an hour or so when we've got a bit of progress. So it's been an hour, we've got most of the front end panels off and the exhaust is out. We're just moving it to the side now. Everything under the car's undone except for the steering column, and we've got the heater hoses to go, and then the wiring inside the cabin, so the ECU wiring, and then this should be ready to come out. So we're just jacking it up now and move this out of the way. So we just had some lunch and we've come back. We're just going to take the calipers off and the suspension out, and then undo the 4 bolts for the subframe, and then lower it out and pull it out the front. You should be able to just come out, just let it down, so then we'll go from there. That's off. Keep going down.
More down?
Huh?
More down?
Yep. Heaps more down. Like all of it. Keep going. Keep going. Thanks. Sure. So we've got the 4-cylinder sitting in the engine bay, just a test fit for now. As you can see, it all lines up, it all bolts in. The power steering pump sits out the front quite a distance, but other than that, it looks like it's fitting quite well.
They're not good for anything, unfortunately.
Let's see.
Full SC style off to the left, where all the room is.
After that, I would like to do that. So we just test fitted the YRV cluster into the Seor. It looks like it fits quite well. The 2 screws on the sides line up. There was another 2 screws on the YRV cluster that we had to take off, the 2 little mounts, so that it would fit into the dash. And the Seor originally has one top and center, which we'll have to reproduce in metal later. But this dash fits on nicely and it's quite a good fit against the glass in front of the cluster, so that should work quite well. So since we tested the cluster, we decided to start pulling the dash apart because a lot of the wiring was different. I was hoping to just change some small things and use the cluster with the Seor wiring. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that easy, so we've pulled out all of the driver's side and the center wiring from underneath the dash, and all of the wiring that runs down the driver's side of the car, which is the horn and the headlights. So I'm going to pull it for tonight, but tomorrow I'll come in and pull the wiring from that side through to the car, and then try and get this loom out of the car and put it next to the loom which is on the floor behind you. So we'll go around there. So that's the loom from the YRV, and from what I can tell, a lot of it is in the same spot, but the plugs are different and some of the wiring is different. So hopefully we can lay this YRV loom into the Seor and then plug most of the main components in. And there will be a lot of stuff that doesn't work that was on the YRV but isn't in the Seor. So Seor's got a lot less features, which is better than doing it the other way around. So that's it for tonight, and we'll get update tomorrow. So it's been a few days. As you saw, the engine has started. Then we spent 2 or 3 days going back and forwards to you pull it, getting combination switches for the indicators and trying to wire up the interior. So there's been a few small differences. Most of it's been just plugs that are different. The wire color's been the same. And then I spent pretty much a day trying to get the original hazard light switch to work instead of the new one, which is on the indicator column. So we're pretty much done now. Just got to put the whole car back together. But as you can see, it's all looking pretty good. So if you come into the interior here, you can see it's all a bit of a mess, but it all works now. So the new gauge cluster works, the existing radio works. We ended up getting a new steering wheel with a different airbag and different horn plug on it. We've swapped the keys over, we've swapped the ignition barrel over. The heater controls all work now, the fan controls were different. There was 4 settings on the new loom and only 3 on the old loom. So I've got that working as well. We're pretty much ready to go, put it back together. So we're just going to clean up and then we'll start putting it back together. So we just put all the dashboard back together. There's a few wires under the driver's side that I need to hook up, and I need to zip tie some of the stuff out of the way. Then the passenger side, same sort of story. I've got a few things I need to zip tie out of the way, and then the glove box can go back in. So this is the Sirion steering wheel we got from the wrecking yard, and we've had to swap to the hazard light being up here on the new indicator stalk instead of here, which was on the heater controls. Couldn't get that one working, so I might have to have another look at that later. Then we had to swap to a YRV key and ignition barrel, so we're going to have to change the door locks at a later date. but as you can see, that goes in no worries. Fuel pump primes. So if you come in here, all of the gauges light up. The fuel tank gauge works. The handbrake light seems to work. No worries. And then coming over here, we've got all the heater controls. I replaced the globes. They used to be green. I only had clear globes, so I've put those in. So the radio lights up and still works. I had to rewire the speakers, so that's all good. I've checked the cigarette lighter. That works, no worries. The horn works, no worries. So then just on to starting it up. Easy. So that's it for this episode. Next time I'm going to remove the engine again, compare the two subframes, and show you some budget engine mount mods. So thanks for watching El Heffe Shop. See you next time.